everyone. Today I am here with Maia. And I've met Maia today actually for the first time. But I know of Maia from autocross. We've done a lot of autocross, not together, but some of the similar autocross stuff. And I see you on social media all the time. So I've been waiting forever to interview you, and I'm super excited. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, first off, thank you so much for having me on your podcast. I've seen your episodes, and it's just the people that you feature on here. I mean, it's just really inspiring to see other female car enthusiasts, and it just gets me really excited just to see other women who have the same interests as like I do, because I love motorsports. Kind of as a relevant segue into a little bit about my background and everything. I've been really heavily into the motorsports scene for only about a couple of years. I've always liked cars as a kid. I actually had one of those toy like pink Corvettes like when I was 4 years old.
Right.
Like literally it had like Barbie sticker decals on it, and I just like drive it around the apartment complex, and I just thought it was just the coolest thing. I always loved like big SUVs, you know, to like, I used to travel a lot for Taekwondo competition. I actually used to compete internationally in sport Taekwondo as a teen. And so since I was like always traveling, like we drove a lot of places because it was cheaper than flying. I loved when we would like splurge and rent like the big SUV, like the Explorer, like the Expedition. Like I wasn't like crammed in like a Camry as a rental. So I just always loved cars. My first car was a 2007 Ford Mustang V6 Coupe, complete with pony package. And it did catch a lot of attention in high school, because even though I did go to a private high school and there were a lot of my classmates who had really nice cars, like no one had like a current year Mustang. And so I thought it was like really cool, and I was just so excited to like drive it everywhere. Literally, I'm so embarrassed to even recount this, but 3 weeks after I got the car for my 16th birthday, it was raining and I lost traction. I actually like hit a telephone pole and ruined the whole front end of the car.
Wow.
I was completely fine, but I just like, the look on my parents' faces was just like, we just got you this car. How could you do this to us? I'm just like, I'm sorry, I brought shame on my family. And so it was really embarrassing, but you know, it got fixed. It wasn't anything that couldn't be fixed. And you know, life kind of went on. And then in 2010, I met my now husband. We've been together for almost 12 years. What actually like kind of caught his attention when we first met was the fact that I had a Mustang. And he had a 2004, I believe, Pontiac Grand Prix that was like all souped up. It was really loud. And like, so, you know, pretty much met my soulmate on that day. And he just really liked the fact that I had a Mustang, and that's kind of how the story took off. My first major mod was a muffler delete on the V6 Mustang, and I thought I was like so cool. I posted it on like Facebook. I'm like, I just did a muffler delete, guys, look at me. And I just like, looking back, I'm just like, I thought like I was like, you know, hot stuff and everything. Shortly after my husband and I got married, in 2013, we actually purchased a 2007 C6 Corvette. And that was actually kind of like the premier car that became like an autocross and track car, which my husband actually got heavily into in like 2015. At the time, I was still lane track support. I was just like, especially with the autocross, I'm just like, how do you find joy with like just racing around pylons in a parking lot? Like, I do not see what the obsession is with this. And I don't get it. And this seems kind of stupid. And then with like track days, I was just like afraid. And even though it looked really cool, I was just terrified, because like I've done like ride-alongs, and like you get up to like 110 miles per hour, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, like I'm gonna get hit, I'm gonna like get killed out here. And so I just kind of like, you know, stood behind the scenes for like the first 4 years, like we really started getting into motorsports.
Okay.
But then in 2019, after we had lived out here for about 3 years, I decided, you know what? I've been a spectator at a lot of these events. You know, my husband Austin is always going out and like every weekend, you know, going to autocross events, going to solo nationals in Lincoln, Nebraska. I'm like, you know what? You know, why don't I just give this a try? Like it's obviously not going anywhere. I might as well, you know, give it a try. And so at that time we were using a 2002 MR2 Spider, and it had a NRG racing seat in it. And with those, there's no bracket with it, so it's not adjustable. It was adjusted for his height. And I'm about a couple inches shorter than him, so I could barely reach the pedals without putting like my purse or a piece of like foam behind me to push me up in the seat. And I just remember the first event I ever went to, you know, it was really fun going out there and like tooling around in this momentum car, but A, I had to like rig the seat to get it to fit me. B, like I just remember I kept like spinning out, but I mean, regardless, it was still fun. Mm-hmm. And so that's when the addiction began. And I actually lost like 3 months of training because of COVID, because I was regularly going to events and everything, but then the pandemic hit. But once the season started up regularly again, I then was like, you know, I want my own car now. The co-driving is cool and everything, but I want my own stuff. So Valentine's Day of last year, I got my 2013 Scion FRS, and the OEM color is red. And of course, like I love the way it looked then, but I'm like, you know what? I need something that matches my personality better. And so I now have it wrapped in Tiffany, a color that resembles Tiffany blue. And of course, everyone's like, oh my gosh, like, is that a wrap? Like, did you get this, did you get it wrapped and everything? And I'm like, yeah. And then they're like, oh, even your interior is the same color. I'm like, of course, everything's got to match. You can't just have like chrome in the car. That's like lame. So after that, like I started regularly going to events, doing the championship point circuit. I started doing track days shortly after that. And now I now have an autocross coach. I'm at events like 3 out of the 4 weekends every month, and I'll be going to my first SCCA Solo Nationals this September.
Wow,
so
exciting.
It just like, yeah, the addiction began.
Right,
so, and now here we are.
That's right. So it kind of led you up into now finally doing the competition stuff. That's
yes.
exciting.
Yes, that's one really cool thing about the car enthusiast community and the motorsports. Like, you know, you can get into as much as like you feel comfortable. You don't have to be out there trying to like drop your times and do data analysis and figuring out how to adjust your cornering speeds and your brake points. Like, you can get like way into that if you want to. Or you can just be simply like, I really like the way this cool JDM car looks. It has a cool wrap, it has like, wide body kit. It's just, there's something for everyone.
Right.
And so it's just, I've really enjoyed it. But like, of course, for me, as you can tell, I'm kind of a very all or nothing person. And it kind of brings me back to when I used to train, when I used to compete in Taekwondo. Like, it brought me back to that regimented schedule. When you wake up, you kind of have like I don't want to say like, oh, your purpose in life is to race, but you get up, you have to work out to keep your core and keep your body in shape for when you're driving. You need to make time to do that so you can, do your 9 to 5 and make sure you get everything done, because on the weekend, you're up at 5:36 in the morning. You got to have your car packed and have your tires packed, all your tools,
right. Yeah.
and you got to be ready to go because the day starts early and the sun's going to set soon, and you can't be driving at night. And so it's like your whole week, you wake up with a purpose and a mindset, getting yourself prepared for the weekend. And like, since that has been drilled into me from such a young age, from having to compete, I fell back into the pattern and the habit like really quickly, and it feels good. Like, I'm very familiar with it, and even though it does take like discipline, I like it. It just keeps me. It definitely, when I have those hard days at work and everything, it keeps you looking forward to something.
Right, absolutely, yeah. So explain to us a little bit, because a lot of people probably don't know much about autocross, but explain like who hosts the events and kind of like the bracket, like and maybe like different the sections of autocross, like maybe just explain it for everybody a little bit.
Oh, of course, yeah. So autocross is also referred to as solo, and especially with Sports Car Club of America, which is more colloquially known as SCCA. It is one of the cheapest forms of motorsports you can get into, because the main premise is that you have a wide open space and you have a technical course that's set up with orange pylons. So just normal like traffic cones that you would see like on construction sites or whatnot. And the course is technically designed to have elements that would be both attractive for both people with power cars or muscle cars. So like your Camaros, your Corvettes, like just things you can just slam down on the throttle and those things just take off.
Yeah.
And then also in combination with elements that are more friendly for JDM, a lot of JDM momentum cars, like lots of tight turns or like slaloms or anything that kind of requires your car to be able to navigate tight areas. And so, at least from what I've learned, an ideal course has both those types of elements. And the aim of the sport is to be able to get the lowest time in your given class. So each class is formulated based on what type of car you have. So a person with like a Corvette Z06 is not going to be in the same class as like a Honda Type R.
Right.
I think that's the model of the car. Like sometimes like you see so many just like start like throwing like, oh, Ford Fiesta, CRV, ST, all that, stuff.
Right.
So yes, those would not be classed in the same class, because it's like putting a featherweight boxer against a heavyweight boxer.
Right.
It's not an even playing field.
Right.
So each, depending on your car, you'll be classed in the appropriate class. And each person, for example, on a championship day, you would have 4 runs, and your collective times from those will determine your ranking of who wins first, second, third, and so on in your class.
Okay.
And so a typical course can be anywhere, I'd say on average, between like 50 and 70 seconds. If you're at a site that has a really small lot, for example, your course could be as fast as like 35 seconds. It honestly just depends on where it is and how it's set up.
Right.
And so it's considered one of the cheapest forms of motorsports, because you can literally bring your regular daily driver out there and do the same thing as someone who has like a B-mod car that's like used in like it's not street legal because it's a legitimate like race car. Mm-hmm. And so no matter what you have, like as long as it's got 4 wheels and it's street legal and at least 200 tread wear tires, you can go out there and have fun.
Right.
But then the people who kind of get addicted to it, then it's like, oh no, I want to do mods and make it faster. Let's throw a turbo on it. We need like the lowest tread wear tires we can use. Oh, let's run it in a class so we can put Hoosiers on it. Like you can be as much into it as you want, or as like as little.
Right.
And so that's kind of like the premise of it. And some people, like myself included, when I started it, I'm like, how is this fun? Like you're literally driving around pylons in a parking lot or like an airport tarmac or something.
Right.
But it's just really fun. I've like really met the coolest people, all kinds of clubs locally put on autocross events. So not just SCCA, you also have Porsche Club Association, Porsche Owners Club. You have just all kinds of different Corner Exits, another popular autocross club that puts on events. I mean, it's just, there's so many different clubs you can get connected with their own personalities and vibes and everything. And so the main 2 clubs I compete in would be SCCA Cal Club, and which is like LA region, Inland Empire, and like up to like at the south end of Orange County, and then there's San Diego, SCCA San Diego region, which obviously is going to be the more southern parts, including the San Diego County area.
Right.
And so those are the two regions I compete the most heavily in. I do also run with Porsche Club Association, but those I haven't really gotten into their championship point circuit. It's more, I go to their practice events, and usually the way they have the practice days set up, you can get up to 35 runs, and that's almost more than what you really want to do in a day, because your body gets tired, and it can get hot out there if it's in the summer.
Yeah. Do you have to also work any of these events?
Yes, so it depends on the club. Okay. So Porsche Club Association, that's a no work event, and that's kind of nice in its own ways, because you can just focus on coming to the event, dialing in your car, working on your times and everything. But with SCCA, one of the core values of the organization is service. So when you sign up, you are required to have a work assignment, and that could be anywhere from like a course worker, where your job is to go chase after cones if they get clipped by a car, or they're more involved and positions for more probably experienced people, like working in the timing trailer to work on the computer, make sure everyone's times are being tabulated correctly. Safety steward, that definitely takes, you have to take training to be able to be signed off for that. Worker chief, making sure everyone shows up for their work assignments so they don't end up on the naughty list, because they do take that seriously. If you leave, if you run your car and you don't go to your work assignment, you could potentially get banned from the event. So you need to show up for work. So, and it's really great. It's a really great way to meet people and give back to the community, and it helps you understand more of what goes into these events. And
100%.
Right, because if you are help with course setup, you're going to know more about what's going on in the course designer's mind, and how you're going to take various sections of the course. So
that's one thing I learned big time, because when I did a few autocrosses and I had to work the track and reset cones, you really get an idea for, okay, where on the track are all these cones going down? This is the spot I need to work on, because this is the spot that everybody's having a hard time with. And you can see what people are doing wrong or doing right when you're actually on the track trying to help with the cones. So that's really cool. I do agree with the whole work ethic and learning and how that helps. So yeah, that's kind of cool.
Definitely. I mean, it gets hot, especially in the summer, and and then I don't know, a lot of people do like working out on the course, because it's kind of you show up, you do your thing for the session, whatever session they're on, and then you're done. I don't particularly like roasting in the sun.
Yes, that is the thing. I've gotten roasted many times out there, especially in Fontana. It is so hot during the summer. Yes.
And especially if you get put on a busy corner where it happens, a lot of people end up hitting.
Constantly running to go set cones back up.
I'm just oh.
I feel ya.
Oh my goodness. But I love, obviously, the timing trailer jobs. Not only are they out of the sun, I just taking the times and communicating on the radios with the people who are working out on course, calling in penalties and everything, just kind of that communication, because my 9-to-5 job is a program manager, so just kind of using those skills to communicate with people and make sure things keep going, that kind of comes naturally to me. So I do enjoy that, and I just like trying different work assignments. I like doing different things, not just being stuck on the same assignment every week, and especially when you're doing these 3 or 4 weekends a month.
Right. Yeah. Interesting. Okay. So, while you're not out doing your whole autocross racing stuff with your hubby, what, I've heard you started your own business, right, with him? What do you guys do? What is it?
Yes. So in October, we, along with our really good mutual friend, I guess I'll say his name. I won't say his last name, but our really good friend Steve, we all 3, decided to formally start our own car enhancement business, Apex Restyling. And so what we specialize in is full color change wraps and like vinyl installations, but we also do provide paint protective film as well as a ceramic pro applications. And specifically with paint protective film, that's actually really popular amongst like the autocross and the track community due to debris and like cone scuffs that can often damage the exterior of like your fenders and your bumpers and everything. So that is really, really popular and a high like a commodity of interest amongst our motorsports friends. And so again, like I had always kind of like been daydreaming and like toying around with like ideas like we should start a business, you know, I want to be my own boss. Like what could we like legitimately and like realistically get ourselves into that could potentially be lucrative after, you know, the amount of time it takes, like the years it takes to actually get to that point. Because my husband and I, we work on our own cars. The only time we ever go to the dealership or a shop to have something fixed is if the car is under warranty or if it's literally swapping tires off of wheels, because we don't have that pneumatic device in our garage to be able to do that. And no one's going to be like, you know, lighting a match or like, you know, a lighter to try to get the physics to happen to get it to on the wheel. And so since our friend Steve, he is our rapper in chief, he does that as his 9 to 5 at another local shop. And so he has years of experience with like doing full color change wraps for high profile clients and celebrities who obviously cannot be disclosed because of non-disclosure agreements, but lots of experience. We all came together, we drew up a business plan, put in for like fictitious business name to get that going, and like the Orange County newspaper, and it just kind of like took off, like especially since I've always wanted my car wrapped. That was like our first major project. And so after that became like our demo car. And of course, like since it's such a unique color and my license plates literally say Maia K on them, I'm kind of hard to like hide from people. And so it's always a great conversation starter, and then people get interested, and then they want to check out like your portfolio and everything. And you know, I just think it's like very unique. And not only do we like offer services that are for people who really are just into car enhancements and, you know, putting more, I guess, investment in just making their car look aesthetically cool, but also for those who want to protect their investment, especially if they love motorsports but don't want to have to deal with cone scuffs and debris and like paint chipping and everything. So I feel like it has something for everyone, the frugal realist as well as the ones who like to pimp out their rides. And so it's
That's
really
cool.
fun.
So when you wrapped your car, so I'm sure you and your husband probably did it together,
and Steve, of course.
Steve,
like
so the three of you did it.
Yep, he's the rapper and chief, so he showed us what to do, and he did a good majority of it.
Okay, so how long did that process take to do your car? Was it done in stages, or did he just shoot it all out in one time? And
so Steve has the ability to shoot it all out in one time.
Yeah.
Of course, it's very labor intensive, but he's just that good and can do it. But specifically with my car, he had started it over a weekend when we were out of town for a wedding. And so he got like a lot of the major parts done, like the roof of the car and like a couple of the door panels and kind of like major stuff. But we did it over the course of like a couple of weeks and just kind of took our time with it because I also needed to use my car during the week. And so it couldn't just like, you know, stay stored for like a week just to knock it out. So over the course of 2 weeks, like, I drove around with it part red, part mint blue, because that's the technical color of the wrap is mint blue. But I call it Tiffany blue. So it went around in like a hybrid color for like 2 weeks, but then it came out just beautiful.
That's awesome.
Just beautiful.
Now, I think you were mentioning to me earlier, did you wrap some of the interior pieces too?
Yes. Okay. So had to do a chrome delete on the inside, and then with like the dash, and then the centerpiece that surrounds the shifter and everything, like, and the little plastic pieces that go around the air vents, Tiffany blue.
Okay.
Yep.
So did you do those pieces, or did Steve do those small? Like, because I'm assuming a lot of the smaller stuff is probably harder, or is it?
It is, because it's not just a flat, like, one-dimensional or even
Yeah.
like a two-dimensional surface. It's got contours, it's curves, especially
Right.
circles. Circles are hard. But no, Steve taught us how to fish, and we went and,
That's awesome.
however the teach a man to fish, he'll like
Yeah.
live for a lifetime, or however that goes. I can't remember it like completely right now, but that's what he did. He taught us how to do it, and I did about half of the pieces in there, and then my husband Austin helped me with the other ones. So we tag teamed it and did the inside.
Awesome. So what kinds of mods do you have done to your car?
So with mine, I would say that my car's actually relatively boring because of the specific class I run my car in for SCCA. I run it in solo spec coupe class. So the aim of this class is that anyone who runs it has to have a 2013 or a 2015 model Scion FRS or Subaru BRZ.
Okay.
So you can only have those two model years.
Wow. Okay.
And there is a specific set of mods that are available through Tire Rack, and it's called like the SSC or Solo Spec Coupe modification package. I'm not sure if that's like the exact title for it, but that's kind of like the gist of what it is. And the package is only available to SCCA members who need to purchase it to run their BRZ or FRS in the SSC class.
Okay.
And so with that kit, it comes with an IBOC anti-roll kit and the appropriate suspension parts. It comes with Coney shocks, and I think that would be part of like what the kit entails, if I remember correctly. And then you are required to run Falcon RT 660 tires.
Okay.
And so outside,
Wow, they're
of
pretty
those-
specific about what you can run in that class.
Yes, and there has to be like a specific offset of tires, a
Okay.
specific wheel size and
Wow,
everything.
okay.
It's very specific, and pretty much they even say on the first sentence of the spec sheet for making your car legal in that class, they say if it is not explicitly listed on this sheet, it's not allowed.
Wow.
So there's no like, well, it doesn't say like, this type of turbo, I can't put it like in my car. It's like, no, if it's literally not listed on that spec sheet, it's illegal.
Wow. I
And
didn't realize they were that specific.
yes, so because the aim of the class is to create a level playing field for all participants.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So they try to make it as much about looking at the ability of the driver
That's
as
right.
possible.
Right. Yeah. Right.
So my car's kind of boring. We did, when we had our MR2, that thing was like so modified. We did a 1ZZ to 2ZZ swap in it. It had like a huge wing on it, added fender flares. We replaced the soft top with the OEM hard top. We had to order that one from Europe because they're so rare. That one was like so heavily modified, and like mine is like really tame in comparison. But
Right.
if I had a choice, like I'd probably throw a wide body kit on my FRS. I think those are so cool, but of course illegal.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I hear you. That's that would be tough. Yeah. And then if you ever decide to change your class, then you've got a whole different list, like a whole different spec list, right? That you got to follow.
Oh, yes. So at one point I was considering converting my car to be competitive in the STX class, which I believe stands for Street Touring Extreme.
Okay.
And so the FRS is like now considered the more competitive car to have in that class versus the RX-8. So it's like superseded it over the years. So in order to be competitive, you need to like pretty much have like an FRS. But so in that class, you have a much wider range of like wheel sizes, tire sizes, what type of shocks you can use, suspension. Like you have a lot more options, but not all brands are created equal. So if you don't have like the specific premium parts, that you need, that other people have like, you know, done trial and error and figured out which ones have the best performance, you're not going to be competitive. And so kind of what it ultimately like works out to is that to get all the correct combination of parts, kind of like choosing all the correct like makeup items you need, like toner and foundation and powder and stuff, it would literally come out to be like a $10,000 investment to convert the car. So I decided to stay in SSC.
Yeah, I bet. That's a big step.
Yeah, so I'm like, I mean, as tempting as it is to like do more stuff to my car, I mean, it does come with risks and disadvantages. You have to buy the right parts.
Right.
So
yeah, interesting.
I stay where I'm at.
So is there a lot of other females in the autocross that you do?
So even though Cal Club is a large region and there are a lot of really talented and accomplished men and women in the region, like literally you're running with national champions, like multi-year national champions, just one of the stiffest regions in the country. Women are still a minority, both in that region and just in general. And so it is really nice and very inspiring to be able to race with so many well-accomplished and talented women, but we are still a minority, even with a region as big as it is. And so it is really nice to like have that space where you do have the support of like the women in the community, because I'm even sure, like, even before they got to where they are now, I'm sure it wasn't just a walk and skip and jump in the park getting to where they are, especially in such a heavily male-dominated field.
Right, yeah. So how long has your husband actually been doing this?
So he has been doing autocross and track for about 7 years now.
Okay.
I've been doing it for about 2. Well, I've done track for about 1 year.
Right, okay. Yeah, so okay, let's get into that. So you did just have your first track race at Streets of Willow, right?
Yes, my first track race at that site, but my 7th track day total.
Oh, okay. So where was your first regular track day?
So it was at the infield at Auto Club Speedway here in Fontana, here in California, with track SCCA Track Night in America.
That's funny because that was my first track night too.
Oh my
track
gosh,
day, yeah.
I think it's a really great track to start out on because there are, you know, it's kind of relatively like an oblong shape with like not too many turns and straights. You can really like get comfortable with finding the correct line, just getting comfortable driving at high speeds, no matter what kind of car you have.
Yeah, so. I totally agree. Especially compared to Streets of Willow. Streets of Willow's got a lot of curves and tight turns.
Oh yeah.
Whereas the Fontana Inside Track, that was a really great starting point, especially because it has that really long straightaway and you can get some really good speed, but it still allows you to be comfortable into the turns, so the turns aren't too crazy going in and out.
Exactly. So. I think it's a great track for anyone who's interested in getting started doing track days. I feel like that's probably the best one. Unless you're a person who's a trial by fire person, go to Streets of Willow and get all your turning and you can just have a field day.
Now I've heard though that track's going to be closing, right? Aren't they closing down the track because they're redoing it for NASCAR?
So they said for the past 2 years now that they were going to shut down like lot 6 because that's the lot where a lot of clubs hold their events. Like there are places where other popular sites were like, for example, like the El Toro over in Irvine, with like the air base. I probably just completely botched that, but all of my motorsports friends know about El Toro. They closed that one. That was really sad because it was so close to where we used to live when we lived in Irvine. It was literally like 15 minutes away, if that. Right. So that was sad. So now because of the pandemic, a lot of popular sites have like closed. A lot of people use lot 6 at Fontana. So, and they said that they were like going to be closing it or like tearing it down in 2021.
Yeah. And then they pushed it out to 2022, but now
nope, still there.
It's still there, right?
Still
They're still running. Yeah. I heard they were still running through the end of the year possibly. So, but yeah, because I wanted to do another track night event. I just wasn't sure if they were going to continue to do it still through the year.
Right, with like track night with the infield for like the actual like road track. I have heard that they were planning on like closing it for whatever reason, but I haven't heard any updates on that.
Yeah, right.
But as far as like the lot where like a lot of the autocross events are still open,
Right.
still
Yeah, right.
still there.
Okay, so you said you've done 7 tracks.
Yes.
Okay, so you did Fontana. What other ones have you done?
So I've done track night in America at the infield like probably like 3 times.
Okay.
And then I've done Chuckwalla International Raceway twice.
How did you like Chuckwalla? I haven't done that yet.
I love Chuckwalla.
Yeah?
I've done it with SCCA San Diego region, and
Okay.
it's just so much fun. The people who put on the event, they have like what they call a paddock party, and so after like the time attacks that they have on Saturday, it's basically like one of the event coordinators, he makes like a crap ton of like roasted smoked meat in his smoker, and like we all chip in food, and we all just like go chill out after like a long hot day of being out on the track. And you know, the people who stay in the cabins at Chuckwalla, they'll like, you know, go back there when they're done. If you're like me and my husband who don't kind of book things until the last minute, you drive an hour west until you get to the next city. I think it's Indio's the next closest,
right.
and go back to your hotel or whatnot, and then you drive an hour back the next morning.
Right.
But it's just really fun. I love going to Chuckwalla, even though it is like literally in the middle of nowhere.
Right.
California.
Right. Right. Okay, so what else have you done after Chuckwalla?
Streets of Willow. So
Okay,
I've done the
okay,
3.
okay.
I've
Alright.
done the 3. It's just really fun. I actually caught on to track driving a lot more easily than autocross. Autocross has been a very steep learning curve for me. Some people kind of have that like just innate ability to like catch on and be able to just figure out where to go. Like da, 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 da. I was like sea of cones. I guess.
Yeah,
and then I
right.
hit cones, I spin out. But like with track, I don't know, it just clicked with me.
Yeah.
Because I've only done 7 events, and like I run an upper intermediate now. So now I'm trying to make that transition, work really hard to like fully transition to advanced.
Right.
So, but with autocross, it took a long while, and I, you know, would get training and advice and coaching from all kinds of different people who have like their own different driving styles and like their own teaching styles, and I think it's now starting to click, but it has been like a really, really steep learning curve. And it was also great to also do those track days like as kind of like a mental break from like all of like the hard concentrated training. I can just go out there. I'm like, I don't have to set up my GoPro and my tablet to like keep track of data analysis. You know, I can just go out there and drive and have fun and not like stress about things. But now that I'm getting more into it, I'm like more tipped. I'm like, okay, I need to pull up my Hot Lap app and put on my camera, and I just want to see how my times are looking.
Okay, so question for you. So when you run a new track, like you just did Streets of Willow, and say you're now intermediate or intermediate advanced, when you run a new track, do you still run in that same run group, or do you step back a little bit since you've not been familiar with the new track? Or do you always kind of run in that advanced or intermediate advanced?
So I usually tend to run down a group. So for example, with like Chuckwalla, I would be more considered like intermediate, upper intermediate, because I've run the track before, and I'm at least personally, I feel comfortable with like giving point buys for cars to pass me if they're, you know, driving faster than me. I feel comfortable doing that on the straights of the track as well as on turns. And so I'm comfortable with that aspect, because I think that is a huge concept that kind of determines whether you're still in lower intermediate or if you're more upper intermediate. Being comfortable with having cars pass you and on what point of the track. But if it's a newer track, I usually run down. So at Streets of Willow, I ran in lower intermediate since it is a new track. It has a lot of turns, like what we've stated before, and so to be able to correctly learn the line and be comfortable with driving fast on it, it's just it's just safer to be on the conservative side in case
Yeah,
anything
right.
happens, if something breaks,
Right.
if you like.
Well, and then closer towards the end of the day, you can always bump yourself up to. Usually, they allow you to
Yes.
bump yourself up.
Exactly.
So, yeah, that's cool.
Because you are driving a vehicle.
Yes. Yeah.
It's not like running a foot race with like
Yeah.
really fast runners. You know, you are driving a car, so that is something to keep in mind when you are going on a new track.
Right. Absolutely. So, is there any tracks that you're looking forward to that you haven't done yet?
So I am tentatively scheduled. I say tentatively because I haven't actually signed up and paid my money yet, but I do plan on going to the Time Trial Nationals at Buttonwillow in October. So really excited for that one. I've heard lots of great things about it, and yeah, I'm really excited to go there.
Okay. Yeah, Buttonwillow would be one I want to try too. I've heard that one's a fun one because it's got a lot of like elevation changes and stuff. So yeah, that'll be
exciting.
Yeah, that'll be kind of cool. Okay, so back to your car. So do you have a name for your car? You know how people name their cars. Do you have a name?
I call her Tiffany because it reminds me of like the Tiffany and Company box.
Right. That's
I know,
cute.
so original, but like literally, like I actually have never really named a car, but
yeah,
I call her Tiffany.
Okay, that's cool. And then one of the questions people always like me to ask is, what would be your like dream car if you had whatever money you had and you could just go get your dream car? What would your dream car be?
Lamborghini, hands down.
Lamborghini. Okay.
I want a supercar. Like, have you watched like The Fastest Car on Netflix?
I think so. I think I have.
Like, it's a show where they like have like different regional like quarter mile strip like drag race almost.
Okay.
And it's usually they have like some regular old cars, like, you know, regular JDM or like a Mustang or something. And then they have like a sleeper car that looks like a complete beater and it doesn't look like it can do much, but they've like modified it so much that it's actually like, oh, holy crap.
Yeah.
And then they have like a supercar.
Yes.
And usually what ends up happening is like, the sleeper, they like when they show their bio or like their story, it's like, I've been working my whole life. I've had to struggle. Me and my team, you know, we built this car and we're gonna beat this supercar. And it's like it's just kind of like this underdog, like 8 Mile type like vibe.
Right.
Then you've got the other people who are just like, yeah, I want to see what my car does. And then you've got the person in the supercar, usually a Lambo or McLaren, and they're like, all I have to do is put in sport mode and I just boom. And usually the person in the supercar loses because there is more to driving a car, even if it is a quarter mile strip, than just putting the car in sport mode or whatever they specifically call it, pressing the button that makes them go boom.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But
right.
I don't know. I really want a Lamborghini.
Yeah.
I think they're just really cool cars.
Yeah, they're beautiful.
I want a Lambo.
That's awesome. Okay, so what would be then a car that you wouldn't be caught dead in?
Probably was it the BMW? Is it the i3 or the i8? The thing that looks like a smart car?
Oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about. I don't know what it is.
I think it might be it's either i3 or i8. I forget the number, but
I know which one you're talking about.
No. Especially, I'm a very tall person. Like, that would just be, no.
Yeah, okay.
Nope.
Yeah, that's safe.
No. I'd rather drive a Prius.
You'd rather
No
drive a
offense to Prius drivers, but.
Right. Yeah, well, what's funny is that one of the last times I went to Streets of Willow, somebody was out there with their Prius on the track.
That's
and
awesome.
It was slow, but I thought it was cool that he actually brought it out and was willing to
not
track
afraid.
it.
They're just like, hey, I got this car. We're driving it.
Yeah, more power to you. Even though it can barely make its way around, it's all good. Too funny. Okay, so what are some of your future plans or goals? Like, what do you have? Anything in the works, or like maybe 10 years from now where you'd like to be?
I feel like this is such a broad question. It's like you gotta specify. We're talking about like 9-to-5 career goals, a business career,
right?
Or racing.
Okay, well, let's do this. Let's start with business. Where would you like to see yourself in like 10 years with your new business?
I would really like to see it at a point where it would allow me to be able to have that as like my full-time career and source of income. Not only because, you know, a lot of people dream of being like their own boss, like even though there is a lot of behind the scenes anguish and stress
Oh, yeah.
and other factors that you have to deal with when you're the one as like the CEO.
Right.
But also it would allow me to really take what I love and be able to channel it into something that is lucrative and that, you know, provides services for people who also love cars. And so being able to work and do what I love would be really, really a really good goal for me to achieve in the next decade.
Okay.
So that would be like my business, like kind of like what my business goals are. It's definitely going to be a lot of hard work. Some days I'm like, why did I even think this could be possible? But nothing good ever comes easy.
That's right.
If it was
So
easy,
true.
everyone would own their own business
Right.
and then put each other out of business because everyone owns their own business. But
Yeah.
that would be where I'd like to see myself in 10 years. Have it like just make it a smooth running machine.
Right.
And
That's awesome.
about people's rides.
That's cool. Well, maybe one of these days you can pimp out my ride.
Okay, of course. Pick a color, any
That's
color.
awesome. Too funny. Okay, so then what about your car goals for 10 years from now? Car goals. Car/race, like what kind of, where do you see yourself?
Well, even though, like I said, autocross has been a very steep learning curve for me, I would like, hopefully within the next decade, I can actually place in my class at nationals. Again, just a lot of really great, talented, hardworking drivers out there. It's a very lofty goal, but it's not impossible. It may take a lot of time, but you know, it can happen if you try really hard and you're willing to put in the dedication and the sacrifice and the anguish and everything. So I would say I would hope within the next decade, I'd like to be able to place in my class at nationals. I guess for this upcoming year, my goal, you know, I'm looking at, you know, doing my first nationals, so I'll have that under my belt. Doing my first time trial nationals at the end of the year for track racing. I'll have that under my belt. So this year will be like kind of like a year of like first as far as like goals go. And then from there, just kind of like add like little, you know, like reasonable, actionable kind of like steps to go off of that. So like, this year I went to nationals. That was my goal. Next year, I might want to place in the top quarter of the division. Then the next year, you know, work on placing. And then the next year, like go for gold. Like kind of like that. So that's kind of how I'm like kind of looking at my progression. And I just have to remind myself that, you know, this, at least with autocross for me, it's not something where you can like force the acceleration of the learning and practice process. It's just, I feel it's one of those things where I'm, you know, realizing and learning to accept that you will get it when your body is ready to get it, when your fine motor skills and everything. Like I'm waiting for that day when it clicks and makes sense. And I'm just like, okay, I can read this course. All right, I know what I need to do. I know what I need to visualize.
Right. Yeah, we all know that seat time is what makes a big difference.
Yes.
So
exactly.
Yeah. So the more seat time, the more you'll be dialed in.
Yes, exactly.
That's awesome. Very cool. Okay, so one of the things we talked about earlier before our interview was other types of racing. So you were mentioning to me that back in the day you used to maybe do some drag racing?
Oh, yes. Claremont Speedway, when we used to live in Indiana, you know, I had gone out there a few times with Austin, that was like kind of the thing we used to do before we got into autocross. And I had my V6 Mustang, the one I wrecked 3 weeks after I got it. And I thought it was really fun because I thought I was like doing like some real racing stuff. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm out here in like the light and I just like punch it and I go. But then, I don't know, I think A, because I was a female, B, because I had a V6, a lot of guys wouldn't, and they were men, like I did check inside their cars, like a lot of men would not pull up next to me to go down the drag strip because like I was female and I had a V6. I'm like, wow, that is so petty. Really?
Right.
You know? And so that's kind of like one of my first experiences of like, kind of dealing with kind of like the microaggressions a lot of us females have to deal with in these spaces when you're doing motorsports.
Right.
Kind of takes some of the fun out of it. It's like you're up there, you're just trying to do your thing, like with the dudes, and they're having fun. And it's like here comes this female, and they just all want to be like,
Yeah, right.
Like really?
Right. Yeah, I get that. I definitely think, obviously, the more racing I do, I see a lot more girls out there, and so it's getting a little bit more accepted, I would say. So that's kind of nice, but. One of the things, too, that we talked about as far as racing is I know we both have a little bit of interest in trying to do some drifting.
Yes, Tokyo Drift. That's my favorite Fast and Furious movie. I don't care who says that was the worst one. You lie. Tokyo Drift. Oh, my gosh. Anyway,
that's funny.
I digress.
That's awesome. Yeah, so what is it about drifting that it seems interesting to you? Is there like what's the draw?
Honestly, see Fast and the Furious 3. I just thought it was so cool. They were just going down the mountain, just drifting to the death, and it just looked really cool just to see a car move like that. Just like glides through a corner, and glides to another turn. Yeah. I just thought it was the coolest thing ever. Yeah. Especially when you're 15, the movie just came out in 2006, and you just think it's like the coolest thing ever. And then you watch the movie when you're 31, like I am now, and you're just kind of like looking way too deep into like the movie, because in the beginning, when the one high school guy was like challenging the main character of the movie on like a quarter mile, drag or whatever, and the other guy has his like girlfriend in the car, it's like, dude, you have extra weight in your car. Why is she riding with you? Like, it's just common sense, but then you just start looking way too deeply into things.
Yeah, right.
And then everyone's like filming like the drifting with like their camera phones. I'm like, I can't believe like that was like the coolest technology of the time was a flip phone.
Right.
And then I don't know, it just kind of like if it hadn't been for like the cool drifting and looking at the JDM cars with like the racing harnesses and the racing seats, I'm like, this is kind of cheesy. But I still love Tokyo Drift. I love the song. Like, that's really what got me onto drifting.
Okay. That's awesome. Well, hopefully we can both maybe get into drifting in the future. I know there are some all-female drift events. There was one recently at Apple Valley, and so I think it's Sparkle Drift, I believe. I have to double check that again, but I think they have another one coming up, so maybe we can both go and check it out and do some ride-alongs. And I mean, I don't have a drift car, but I'd love to get one. I think it'd be a lot of fun.
Our Camaro. Don't tell my husband. I mean, it is kind of like a good car to drift because it's like heavy and just flip that back end around.
Right. Yeah. I think at that last all-girl event, there was a really good mix of cars, all kinds of cars. There was your E36s and their Mustangs and the 86s and 240s. I mean, there was all kinds of different cars out there, so it would definitely be fun to go check it out and maybe get a ride along first.
Yes, take nausea meds beforehand, because I've done ride-alongs with my husband and his friends, and like I used to get nauseous like riding along in autocross before I started doing it regularly. But like with drifting, I'm just like...
Yeah, that's the thing. And there's a lot of smoke involved. And a lot of tire burning. Yeah, definitely. Well, is there anything else you'd like to add or discuss? Like, what are your thoughts about the industry as a whole and how females are involved in that? Anything you want to share?
I mean, I just think it's... Like I said earlier, there's something for everyone. You can get as much into it as you want. You can get, only put like your big toe in the water. I mean, there's just something for everyone.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess one thing I've kind of noticed over the, just as I've gotten older, and like I'll talk to like my girlfriends who aren't necessarily car enthusiasts, and I'll be telling them like, oh, this car is so cool, and not even really getting into like technical mechanical jargon or anything, but they're just kind of like, oh, sure, I guess. And I'm like, what? It's a 350Z, it's a BMW like 6 Series or whatever it is, and I don't know. I just always thought cars were cool, so then to be able to find other females who think cars are like equally as cool, and then also find other females who are equally as crazy as I am and like to drive aggressively and fast, it's just really great. And like, you know, a lot of times at these events, I'll see females who come out with like their significant others or whatnot, and they're there spectating, and you can see that they're really interested in what's going on, but just maybe hesitant to take that first step into doing like a ride along or like even co-driving with someone. And so, you know, I just try to like do my best, like just if there are any females at these events, I try to make them feel welcome, you know, kind of give them the lay of the land. So like hopefully, you know, maybe one day they'll feel comfortable taking that step, and then they'll be out there, you know, with us, you know, just having fun. And, you know, I mean, for the, you know, in general, like the men who are at these events are very accepting and polite. You know, it's not like, oh, you know, no girls allowed.
Right. Yeah, that's true. My experiences with most of the men there, they're very forthcoming with information, always willing to help you out. So that's definitely been great. But it is nice when you do have females out there and you as a female can be the one to go and give them that information. They don't have to necessarily rely on some of the fellow men that are there. So
or their
that's
significant
cool.
others to be able to ask other, usually men, what's going on. So I do want to be able to empower female drivers, car enthusiasts, motorsports participants. Like, don't be like, to feel comfortable asking like their own questions about driving technique or a car issue or what type of GoPro camera to use or what type of tires. Exactly. So they don't feel like, you know, they need to have their significant other or their friend or whoever with them, you know, to be able to ask them, to ask whoever, or just, you know, have to use like a middle person basically. Like, I would like to be able to help females be more comfortable in these spaces, to be able to have the confidence to ask the questions themselves and do so where people will not be rude or like just attack them because they're females. Because I've had that happen on social media car pages. Like, I know one time I posted when I had my BMW 228i, so I did have that as well before my FRS, and I did a muffler delete on it, and I thought it was really cool. It sounded really nice and aggressive, but a lot of like men, like they just like came at me and said like, how could you ruin like a nice car like that? Like, are you stupid? Like, wow, and your license plate showing in this photo. It's like, can you just let people enjoy things? I mean, like with that particular mod, like when we sold it, we threw the muffler back on like no problem and like had it, you know, and sold it. Just let people enjoy things. But like the main point is that I don't want females to think like that's like kind of like the baseline least common denominator that you're going to have to deal with when you just want to participate in a social space.
Well, it's exciting. It's nice having a fellow car girl, and I know one of these days I will be at some sort of race with you.
yes, and that would be, we still have yet to like ride together or drive together, you know. I'm really looking forward to that.
I know, I am totally looking forward to that too, and I know it's going to happen soon. And I know actually one of the things we have coming up, which I was going to also mention, is our all-female car meet that we're doing. So we will post the details, but that is going to be something where we're all going to be able to come together. I know so far we have like 45 women that have signed up. So we're going to have an awesome showcase of cars.
Oh my gosh.
And it's just great when we can have all of us cheeks out there together, chatting cars and
drinking coffee bean and tea leaf down the street. Not that I like coffee at all or anything.
It's going to be awesome. It's going to be so much fun.
Goodness.
So we'll post the details so that you guys can check it out. But can't wait to see you there. That's going to be a lot of fun. And I appreciate you driving all that way to come out here tonight and hang with me and interview.
Of course. I mean,
really fun.
It's really great. Thank you so much for having me here. I love meeting awesome, cool females. I mean, I love meeting awesome, cool people no matter what gender you are. But it's just really nice to see, you know, the shop you have and like all of like especially the rotary pillow. I mean, isn't that the
rotary
cutest
pillow.
thing ever? I'm so gonna order one like as soon as I get home. I just I can't. So it's just really great. Thank you so much.
You're
for having
welcome.
Me.
Thank you so much for coming. I appreciate you.
Thank you so much.
Yay. Well, thanks everybody for listening. And again, this is Maya. And check back in. Pretty soon we'll be interviewing another awesome female, somebody who does some stunt car driving. Ooh. So stay tuned. Thanks again for following and listening. Peace out.